Greetings and welcome to MentorMe Memorable Moments. You are here with our social health segment tonight, and I am your host, Tracy Everette Duncan.
And I'm your co-host, William Craig III. So
No.
happy to be with. So happy to be with.
Dwayne.
Look, we're saying hello to 150 nations and all 50 states, and you're probably viewing us through www.listenvisionlive.com or our very own website, mentorme411.com. So welcome.
Yes, indeed.
Now, we're here tonight, and we've got two segments going on. You know, we've got the Chop Chop with Dwayne, and we have
Yes.
William, who is our business coach. But we're going to start off first with Dwayne Ross with the Chop Chop.
Hey.
This is a kingdom. What up? It's the Chop Chop. It's time to bring that weight to the front. It's time to chop it up. Let's get it. For sure, we gon' just call this the Chop Chop. Big up, Epiphany. It's the Chop Chop. Let's get it. Chop Chop. Let's go. Hey, hey, what does it take to make you chop chop? Maybe in the face of the
That's what it is. It's called the Chop Chop, chopping it up. This is D. Ross, and I'm so glad to be here, man. I got something for you tonight. It's going to be so awesome. I want to pull on your heart a little bit about what's going on in the streets. Definitely also what's going on behind the walls with our young people. But before I do that, I want to bring you something that's happening next week, March 12th.
Okay.
And that's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. right here in Temple Hills, Maryland. And that is a wonderful event that's called the Yes Summit. It's the Youth Empowerment Success Summit. Now, what we're empowering? We're empowering in employment. We're empowering people to understand education. We're empowering them for entrepreneurship, and then we're empowering them to be really engaging in positive ways in their community, because the community is still crying. You guys know that I just talked about the blood. The blood from Cain is still from the crime that Cain committed against his brother is still crying in the streets. The streets are crying for justice, and we need to do something about that. So I want to help us with our young people by getting them in front of me and some other people. I've got great guests that's going to be talking about all these different areas. But when we get to the part talking about the community, it's going to really wrap into what I'm talking about tonight, because today I'm talking about Jeremiah. You know, the Bible talks about having a plan. If you can go to the next slide. There's a plan for every single person. God said, hey, you know what? I know the plans that I have for you, plans for well-being, plans that will prosper you, okay? Not have trouble and give you an expected future, expected hope. But then I started thinking about this because, you know, this is Jeremiah's promise from God. They were in captivity. They had a false prophet telling them everything was going to be all right. And then God had to come and say, you know what? I'm going to get rid of this false prophet. But here's what I'm going to tell you to do. As a matter of fact, you are going to live in the houses. You are going to have businesses. You are going to have all this prosperous, even in Babylon. But you're going to do it my way. And then he said, because I created you for a purpose. But our young people have forgotten, or they haven't been taught about their purpose. So we're going to talk
Good
about
stuff.
That is true.
because, see, it's amazing what's happening in America. Land of the free, home of the brave, right?
Right.
People die on our shores for an opportunity.
Right.
They jump in water with, you know, the opportunity in their heart and in their hand, swimming. They even have a law that says if you could just touch the ground,
That's right.
Wow.
now you have access to everything on the earth in America.
Okay.
And there are people fighting to get to the ground just to say, I'm here now, let me in. But there are people here now, our young people, 13 and 14 years old, sentenced to death,
Wow.
sentenced to life in prison with no parole. Let's go to that video.
heard of a sentence of life without parole when I was 14. I never knew that they would send people to prison and let them die there, and especially young people.
When I first came, I came to the walls of Jeff City, and it's like horrible. When you first get in there, all you see is the walls. I just sat myself and cried.
I was 14. I'm 23, and it's hard for young children to be able to express themselves to begin with and make smarter, better decisions than I was at 14.
We don't think there's any dispute that sentencing a 13-year-old to life imprisonment without parole is unusual. It's happened only twice for non-homicides, only 9 times. We also think that to say to any child of 13 that you're only fit to die in prison is cruel. And we believe that the Constitution prohibits that kind of punishment and that this court should enforce that in this case and in the Graham case.
Hey, I hope your eyes is like welled up. Maybe your heart is being tugged right now. If you took the time to really pay attention to that, you see young people who couldn't even get their fingerprints done because they couldn't even. They had to be on a crate, right? You had young people with clothes that don't fit because, as you said, William, it wasn't meant for them. But this is a nation that has made a decision that this is how we're going to treat young people, and that there's no way for them to be rehabilitated at all, that there's no opportunity for them outside of death and the 4 walls of prison.
So Dwayne, we were talking during that movie because I don't know how many times I've looked at it and I'm still getting emotional over this. What kind of crimes did they create?
Yeah.
This put them in that situation.
This is crazy because, yes, some of them have been murders. Some of them have been attempted robbery. Some of them have been robbery with the intent to hurt or maim because maybe they hit the person with a gun. Right. But here's the other statistic. 72% they committed these crimes with another adult present. And the gentleman you saw, Joe Sullivan, who's part of the Equal Justice Initiative, and he's fighting, his organization is now the primary organization that is fighting in all kind of states. And you'll see a statistic later on where states have actually been asked to stop. President Obama on January 25th made a decision to sign an executive decision that says, executive order that says, we can't do this any longer. That's something that he did just this year, 2016, because it is an epidemic. And the crimes, one gentleman, he created, he actually is on trial back and forth because he's appealed since then, since he was 14, and now he's about 25, 26. And the people who were there did not get murdered as a result of him telling the guy who was about to murder the 2 young ladies, man, let's just take the money and go.
Wow.
And the young lady went to court on his behalf.
Wow.
And the judge still said, you sound like, you've rehabilitated, but that just tells us how well our justice system is.
Oh my gosh.
And in my opinion, you haven't done anything but what we asked you to do.
Oh my gosh.
But you still need to continue to stay in jail.
Wow.
And so, you saw Tay, he was saying, the decisions I made at 14, I would never make at 24.
Exactly.
And look at us. I mean, how many decisions, if we could go back and put a light lamp on some of the decisions that we made at 14 and 15 years old, which again, I'm not saying that, young people who have committed murder, one particular young man, he was sentenced to death by electric chair, right? The first person was African-American, young man. And he wasn't even, they couldn't even find all of the evidence for this.
Wow.
But he went to electric chair.
Wow.
And it was years later that they started finding all the pieces to say he was possibly innocent. So, go to the next slide. So, Equal Justice Initiative is really important. See, our kids are dying in prison in the streets, and the Supreme Court, they filed this ruling and they said, we're going to, deal with this epidemic. However, 70% of these children are actually children of color. These are brown and black children. And it's unequal in every single area, whether it's drug related, whether it's violation of human beings' body, or actual murder that took place where they had premeditated the murder. Because that's what they look at, what was the decisions prior to the action. And so a lot of these young people, there was no real prior action. It was like, hey, let's go do this. Okay. And they went along and did it. And in some cases, the older person put the gun in the young person's hand because they knew if they were caught,
Wow.
how that would be played out in court, where the young person's like, hey, you going to give me $100? Because this is how it runs down. Okay, you go in the store. All you're going to do is hold the gun. I don't have to shoot nobody? Nah, you ain't got to do nothing. All you got to do is be in there and tell me if somebody's coming. I'm going to take care of everything else. He walks in there. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Then the dude who's the older person, boom, bow, 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 shoots the person behind the desk, takes all the money. Both of them leave. They both get life in prison.
Like the snapper.
So
the sniper.
Yeah. Waldo. They said he was cognitive enough to know everything that he was doing, and therefore this is what will happen. But
But see, I can't understand why the medical community has not been outraged at this, because certainly we're not saying that they should go unpunished.
Right.
But again, when we look at a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, I mean, bottom line is we know science is proven to us that the skills to be able to reason are not well developed until your late 20s.
Yes.
So at some point,
They
when
already
does
know.
someone
They have
step up to the plate and say, well, this person is, if you will, insane,
because they're doing it they're basing their decisions on like active will. They're saying that this person had a will to do this, because in Kentucky there was a young boy who he said, okay, let's go get John. I'm using different names.
Right.
We're gonna kill him, and then after we do that, we're gonna go get my mom and my dad, my stepdad, because I'm sick of them.
Okay.
Right.
And he got caught up when he killed the first guy.
Right.
The first guy was asking for his life, and so when he went to court, the judge said, look, you had no remorse. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you already had a plan to do something
But
else.
through the lens of reasoning that did not really understand and comprehend.
The weight.
Exactly. And even the act.
Yeah.
And even the act.
Right.
Because I got to believe that there are people, look, there's some decisions I made at 30. Okay? Let's just jump over
yesterday,
this.
right? We're like, oh,
last week.
Yes.
All right?
I don't know.
So come on, give me a break.
Yeah. So
how are
here
you
we are.
helping? How are you helping?
Here's what we're doing. Locally, again, one of the answers that we found is that people have to have a mind shift, right? You have to infect their mind to think differently, but you have to also help them look at their critical thinking skills.
Okay.
All right, you're gonna do this, and then what? You're gonna come into the store. This is what's gonna happen, and then what? Okay. You're going to have a police officer come up to you and say this, and you're going to say that, and this is going to, and then what? We have to get them to think it through. Even at 12, even at 11, even at 10, because I'm watching my 2-year-old grandson make some decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's like thinking, okay, I want to get that. I got to get that chair. Let me pull that chair over to the couch. If I get up to the couch, then I can get up to the candy jar and I can get the candy.
Right.
So there are some thoughts that trains of thoughts we have to talk about. So we're holding a youth summit, and it's called Success for a reason, because success. Go to the next slide. Success is an intentional situation. You can't just believe that I'm just successful. We don't believe that. Success is intentional. It's a promise of God.
Okay.
He said, if you trust in me, I'm gonna take care of you. We have to understand that there's some biblical principles
That's
at
right.
war.
That's right.
Some of our young people are so caught up in what is the principalities and the powers and rulers of darkness that are carrying out
This
these
world.
actions through them in this
Gotcha.
world.
In this world.
Because that's what happens in this world. We have two things that we have to understand: dark and light. Yin, yang, however you want to look at
That's
it.
right.
It exists.
Yeah.
That's
And there's so many people that try to act like it doesn't exist. Okay. Choices, choice driven. Life is choice driven. You live and die in the choices, right? Success is supported by positive focus. We have to engage their focus. What are they focusing on? I just watched a video today of a 14-year-old who's got this weird, I can't even think of the name, but it's like danger, something. And these are grown people now have him in front of a camera with choppers and gats and thousands. I mean, they're all around smoking a blunt, all of that. To epitomize this gangster lifestyle. He's not even a gangster, but he's playing a gangster in front of the video, and all his homies and boys. It's like, yeah, this is hot, this is cool, yeah, and they, so we got to deal something with that mindset. We got to engage that. We also give them some vision. Okay, African Americans are sentenced 10 times more to life without parole than any other ethnic group.
10 times.
So if that's happening, that's racism. So you have to deal with that.
And I see you have the hashtag slavery evolved.
Yes, slavery evolved.
I like
It
that.
started from what they did on the boats, and now it's like, look, I can't put you on a boat and send you back, so I'm putting you in this prison. And we talked about the pipeline to prison, and that's a whole nother story, because
Right.
now it's really ramped up for females. And that's man, when we get
No, because I did a study on females. We're going to talk about
Yes.
that.
So you can get involved in the conversation using that hashtag.
yes, you
Right,
can.
'cause we need to have the
so
conversation.
Yes.
let me go to one more slide, because I'm getting to the end of that time frame. I just wanted to really understand this. See, we talk about the village. The village concept states that if it takes a village to raise a child, we must get back to being caring, responsible. We must be the ones that have help them respond and not react. And if you look at that, all the red that you see, that's where the law has already been passed, but they have not adopted the law.
Okay.
What
They
law?
have the law in order to say that the Supreme Court in 2012 said, okay, mandatory life sentence without parole for juveniles is unconstitutional.
Okay.
Okay.
Right? You saw that early in the
Okay.
clip.
Right.
Well, it finally went through the court, and they said, okay, cool. But the pink is all the nations that was like all part of our nation that said, maybe we might do it, we might not. Okay, under review. And under review in the court of law, they still say OJ did it, right? I'm just saying, they found the knife yesterday, right? The day before. All right, one more last slide if I get caught up here. All right, so we got to have a plan. And the plan is youth summits and things like that, because we want to make sure that we are engaging them on their ethics. We're helping them understand that they have to have a plan. They have to have things that they're discovering about who they are, their purpose, their worth. And as you helped me say it, tag, right? Talent, ability, and gift. You're going to see on the next slide, okay? The next slide, and just so you know, Promise Keepers came forth. President Obama said, okay, we want to make sure that this initiative goes forth, executive order in 2014. We're looking at what's working, what's not. We're not even going to worry about it, but we're unlocking the barriers. We're unlocking the potential. We're getting rid of the barriers and things like this, and that's what we're trying to do in the local community. Now, what we're going to do is DMV. We're doing Maryland, then we're going to do D.C., then we're going to do Virginia. I already have a relationship with Virginia, so we're going to do something. But I want to invite you to go to go to my, you'll see at the end of this here, go to our information and go to Facebook and go down there and click on, get the free tickets. This is a free event. It doesn't cost you anything. All you got to do is go to that Facebook, I am Dwayne Ross, and you'll see information about it, okay? Go back one more slide because I want to say one more thing before I get out of here, okay? Just want to remind you something. That's one slide back.
Oh, the Youth Summit slide.
Okay,
yes.
past that. Excuse me. One more. Okay, so it's discover your tag. That's what I want to talk about. See, I want to help every single person, young and old, but mainly our youth, discover their tag, their talent, their ability, their gift. Because we started off saying, I know the plans that I have for you, plans that will prosper you, plans that will bring you to an expected end. There is an expectation
I like that.
for you to
Expected.
do well,
Yes.
to have hope. But our communities, because of the village being sick, the king is incarcerated, the queen, in some cases, incarcerated or on drugs or get 3 jobs. Who's raising the kids?
Yeah, they're raising
So
themselves.
they're doing it on their own.
In the
And the
streets.
Bible talks about that. A child left to himself will dishonor his parents. It says that in Proverbs. So we have to get back to the village. We have to get back to coming together with our expertise, just as we sit around here together, because we're going to make and impact the lives of people that's listening, right? We want to impact these young people. So go to the slide on the summit. 13 years old to 19 years old, 9 to 3. Just come on. We're going to talk about scholarships. We're going to talk about internships. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. I have a number of different people that's going to just come and pour out their heart. And I don't care if it's 2 kids in this audience or 200. We want you there. So I'm the author of the book, No More Crumbs from the Table. Let me see, put that right there. All right. But
We see all your books.
yeah.
There.
So here it is, making sure that our young people understand that they came to earth with something. And so, this whole idea, we're going to go a little bit even deeper about what's happening. I'm really building a relationship with the Equal Justice Initiative, finding out more about what they're doing. I invite you to look into them because they're in court right now across the nation for every young person. And they're actually getting people released. They're
Yes.
getting people where
beautiful.
they're saying,
Ding,
okay,
ding,
you
ding,
did
ding,
25 years. We think you can come on out and do some things. And there's some young men right now walking back and hugging their moms, not watching their family die. And they're coming out and they're making an impact as well because they're changing. And there are some kids that have some serious needs out there. They've done some very vicious crimes. They need help too. But is this a nation that's going to just throw away our children? Is this a nation that's going to continue to just put them in jail?
Well, we're going to do our best.
Ooh, wow.
We're going to do our best.
We got work to do.
Yeah. Well, that's Dwayne with the chop. Chopped it
up for us.
But
too.
we just have a couple more minutes before we get into the second segment. You mentioned something about critical thinking.
Yes.
And I raised my son and my niece and nephew on critical thinking when they were little. So if you're going to watch those programs or if you're going to listen to what your friends are telling you, then you need to think about those options.
You have to be able to know what the options are. And you have to play these options out. We're going to
That's
be
right.
doing some exercises at the Youth Summit
Good.
where they're forced to think, okay, if this happens, then what?
Right.
Because a lot of times they don't think about the next step. They only go by what's happening around them. A lot of times, just recently we saw in the courtroom these young people who were brought in, before the magistrate to say, hey, you stole a car, you made mayhem and all this stuff. And they was, bagging on each other and cursing out the police officer and cursing out the judge. Why?
In the courtroom.
In the courtroom against one another because they were now on stage. And that's another thing that we have to deal with. Because, see, in front of their peers, if their peers saying, hey, it's a good thing,
Right.
that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but there are people who are glamorizing
Right.
murder.
Right.
And we become insensitive now.
Yes.
That's right.
Because when you look at the video games, which are prevalent in the community,
Oh, yes.
guess what? Most of it is about killing somebody. It's
that's
about
right.
shooting them in the head.
Listen.
And now I want to see it in
Become
real life.
desensitized.
I was introduced to D1 today as a result of looking into something that we're going to do at the Youth Summit for internships. D1 is a rapper who said, okay, here's what they can give you. They can give you this opportunity. But what are you going to do with this opportunity, Jay-Z? What are you going to do with this opportunity, Lil Wayne? What you going to do with this opportunity, 50 Cent? So they're going to hear these guys glamorizing what's going on, but what's really happening behind the scenes.
Right.
Half of them don't have the money.
Right.
Right.
It's just a joke, you know.
Sure. It's all a facade.
It's a facade.
It's Hollywood.
And then they say, okay, here's in the contract, you must talk about misogynistic things. You must talk about these areas.
'Cause that's the brand.
We're
That's
not
right.
That's the
gonna
brand.
put that other stuff, positive radio stuff.
Right.
We're not putting that on the air. That's where you got, you know, Ice Cube, you know, and all them. You know, they glamorize this whole idea of F the police.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a lot of work. We are the only ones that's going to change it. Our community must wake up and make some decisions to do what we know we should be doing. Because if we continue to just think it's going to come from the outside in, we're going to get what we always got. Because it's not changing.
All right. Hashtag discover your
Your
tag,
tag.
to talk to Dwayne Ross with the Chop Shop.
Thank you
Thanks.
so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you know, as we get into this segment, I want to say that Dwayne has really set this up beautifully, because as I continue in my segment about how to become socially responsible, but really, it centers around starting your own home-based business. And that's the practical piece. And Mike, if you could start putting up my slides. The practical piece to it is the key for us really is to do something for ourselves. And we could make a list, but I'm starting the list with starting a successful home-based business. And let's go to the next slide. And so here we go. When we consider all the things that we just heard about, you know, one of the things that we got to understand that we can all benefit from this information. Don't care where you are, what stage of life you're in. The bottom line is, let's start with us. And go on, Mike. So as we look at starting a home-based business, a successful home-based business, and listen, you can go to our archives at MentorMe411.com, and if you've missed the segments that have preceded this, you get an idea of how we built up. But this week, I want to talk about getting rid of distractions, because I think that is so important for us to understand. And look, I've struggled with it. I've struggled with it.
I'm struggling with it.
Admit it. Okay. You can overcome.
Okay. Go to the next slide, please. So this is real. So here's the question. Where do you find distractions? Well, duh. Everywhere. You know, in the supermarket, I mean, on the job, at home, there are distractions everywhere. Turn on the TV, there are distractions. Turn on your computer.
Within myself.
We're going to talk about that too. So distractions are everywhere. Let's not kid ourselves. And we want to think that, you know, we got these grand ideas, and that's great, but understand that there are going to be some distractions. On to the next one, please. And so here are the big three internal distractions, and Tracy just talked about. Here we go. Our emotions, our physical issues, and our thoughts. And I love that sign that I found. In fact, it's so funny. Tracy had a moment before we came on camera, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to throw her under the bus real quick. But it was something simple. It was a simple decision. It was a yes or no. I'm not going into detail. It was a yes or no. But she sat here and fought with herself for about 6 seconds. And it was very interesting to watch, because in that time, nothing happened. And there was someone else involved that was waiting. That was waiting for the yes or no. What do I do? There was, because internally,
Yes.
there was some
There were 1,000 thoughts on how I could get that done, and nothing came of it.
Amazing. So you got to understand your emotions, ladies and gentlemen. Look, you're humans. You're going to have emotions that are going to war against the good things that you're trying to do. You have relationships that are working, that are not working. Either way, they can become distractions to the good work that you're trying to do. So you got to be on guard. Put the slide back up, please. You got to be on guard. Next is what? Not just our emotions, but our physical. Things go on in our bodies that can become distractions to us. And are we having technical difficulties? There we are.
No.
And then our thoughts, just everyday thoughts, because we're planning. We're talking about taking care of parents. And for many of us, that's, part of our daily lives now. So we're thinking about that. We're taking care of our children. We're thinking about that. What am I going to wear? We're thinking about that. All of these things can become distractions. On to the next slide, please. So these are the big three for the internal. Now, externally,
Okay.
guess what?
Here we go.
Technology
Yes.
itself. And you
Hold
see
on.
the picture on the
iPhone,
slide.
iPad.
Come on, Tracy turned us all on to Hootsuite, right? Well, guess what? Now I got 3 doggone screens I got to look at. All right, 3 windows. And guess what? They become a distraction now because now, though it's something that's supposed to help me, guess what? Now I got to think about what I'm going to do on YouTube. Now I got to think about what I'm going to do on Twitter and what I'm going to do.
Until you can outsource those things, right?
But here we go.
Yeah,
Oh,
outsource
that
that,
becomes a
right.
distraction because when we're talking about this earlier, when you try to outsource, guess what?
Yeah, you
it
gotta be
doesn't
able to let it
always
go.
happen.
And then he say, what
There-
happened?
I'm waiting. There's a guy who's had me for the last 4 months on hold with a project that I asked him to do. And again, because why? He's got distractions.
Right.
Right.
And to start all over would put me
puts you
back
backwards,
even
yeah.
more.
Right.
So now I gotta have the patience. That's someone told me that this week. You gotta have patience. This is just
a
God's
song, I
way
think,
of telling you that you gotta cool it. You gotta. Guess what? At
They
the
always
end-
say it's God's way of trying to.
that's always they
not
throw,
really
throw
true.
God under the bus, right?
It's not
Put
you,
up the
it's
next
God.
slide for us, please. But here's one of the things that I think that is so important. As I was preparing for the show, it says, and this is a quote by Brendan Burchard. And if you don't know him, he's a very he's a prominent internet marketer, and he says, perhaps the world isn't giving you what you want, because based on all of your distractions and lack of discipline, it's simply unclear what you are asking for. Come on.
Yep.
Wow.
That's like God
I
too,
love
you know.
Brendan.
It's like I don't know what you want.
Look, when I saw that, I was like, that definitely. It's
Put
ready.
that on Twitter.
Yes.
It's ready.
Yes.
Because for many of us, guess what? That's part of the problem. There's so many distractions in our lives that the world, whether you want to say, you pray to God, whether you want to say you put it out in the universe, whether you want to say you send off vibes, however you want to say it.
Right.
At the end of the day, you are saying so many different things
Yes.
Yes.
that whomever is listening to you is confused.
Yeah. What do
Because
you
at
want?
one point, we thought we were working on this. And now there's the shiny new object that comes
That's
into my
right.
life.
That's
And
right.
now you're working on that. Well, what happened to this you were
But they
working
call
on?
it multitasking.
Multitasking.
Listen,
Yeah.
a quick story on that one.
Remember.
I worked for a woman once she really liked me, and one day we were sitting at the desk. She came to visit my office, and this was supposed to be time for us to kind of share. And so she started doing something on her computer, and I stopped talking. And she said, go ahead, I'm listening. And I said, no, you're not. And she said, no, I am. I'm multitasking, as if this was like a revelation,
Okay.
right, that I had never heard of. And I said to her, but multitasking is the enemy of full engagement.
Right.
And she stopped.
The enemy of
And she
full
looked up at
engagement.
me and she smiled.
That's a tweet.
Yeah.
Yes, that is.
Multitasking is the enemy of full engagement. Tweet
And
that.
so we had these kind of chuckles every time we got together, because I was now challenging her to give me all of her attention,
Right.
to be fully
Right.
engaged, so that we could actually get done what it was we had set to do in a way that would be effective for both of us.
Right.
Because we might have gotten through it, but did we really get the best of our ideas?
Right.
It's like when you're going down the
exactly.
hallway and somebody wants to have a meeting with you in the middle of the hallway. It's like, wait a minute, I'm on my way this way.
As 20 people
Yeah.
are coming by.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It's like, how do you do that?
So
Yeah.
people understand this is the importance of the distraction conversation that I want you to really understand. That for many of you, it's not that your ideas are not solid. It's not even about the resources that are available to you. It's not that people have you on their hit list and they just don't want to help you. It's not because they're haters. It's not because of all of the stuff. It's because of the distractions that you have in your life. And unfortunately, nobody really knows where it is you want to go. And so therefore, no one can really help you get there.
And what if you're the one who don't know what you really want? Now
And so, let's go to the next slide. And so I'm not going to just leave you hanging out there. I'm going to give you 6 tips today to help you stay focused when you're working from home, because again, this is where we see this most of all. All right. So number 1, separate the planning from the doing. What does that really mean? You know, there are some people who plan. Now, the one who laughs the loudest.
getting ready to get ready to get ready.
Get ready. I once worked with a guy. He used to say that all the time. And he said, man, people are always getting ready to do something.
Yeah.
He said, when are they ever going to do it? They're fitting her. Right? I'm fitting her. Y'all down home, y'all know what that means.
Yes.
But here we go. Sometimes you got to stop planning and just
That's right.
get off the pot.
Jump in.
Okay?
Go do some things.
Make some movement. Number 2, embrace imperfection.
Yes.
What does that mean? That means
Yes.
don't sit there for 20 days trying to make it perfect.
Right.
When you could have got it out the gate in 3 days. And though it may have had some mistakes, and I'm guilty of this one too, though it may have had some mistakes, people would forgive you for the minor
Right.
mistakes that they saw.
Right.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, perfection is part of the process.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part of the process. So understand that you can't plan, and at
Never
the
get
same
nothing
time, you can't just say, well, I'll release it once it's perfect.
Right.
Okay,
It'll
because
never
if
be.
it's not perfect, then people are going to poo-poo on it, and it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
Next, treat your home-based business like a real job. What does that mean? You go to work 8 to 4.
That's coming from our guest.
You go to work 8 to 4. You go to work 9 to 5. You go to work 6 to 2. Whatever your shift is.
Right.
Guess what? Create a shift at home.
Right.
Show up.
Show up.
And for a specific time too, right?
Come on. And I said this to someone just the other day. You have to schedule time for things that you want to get done.
Right.
You have to schedule it sometimes. Here, manage your virtual environment. That's tip number 5. Some of us are so overwhelmed when we open up our email. There's just, 18,000. And then as we go to look at one email, boop, there's another one comes in. So we go and we shift gears and we go to that. And now we're spending time there. And then the next thing, we click a link in that email, which takes us somewhere
Right.
else. And now we end up looking at a video for a half hour and doggone it.
Yep.
So what are you saying? What I'm saying is that you got to organize your workspace, even virtually, even online.
Yes.
Create folders. Take the ones that are urgent, make an urgent file, make an important file, make a to-do file. And then you got the junk file, that can just stuff that can go in the trash. And as you're going through, maybe go through 10. Again, schedule time. Maybe from 8 to 8:15, that's all you're doing is looking at email. You determine where it's going to go, you place it where it needs to go, and then schedule time to deal with the things that need your attention later on.
And unscribe.
And unsubscribe.
Unsubscribe.
There at the bottom of many of these emails, they'll say you can unsubscribe.
Do it.
Do it. Okay, get rid of it. And that maybe for some of you, letting go is hard. Breaking up is hard to do. But you're going to have to do
It's
it.
a wonderful feeling.
Hello. And then here we go. Tip number 6. Create an anchor to your why. Now, what does that mean? And notice I have why in all caps because we've talked about this before.
Yep.
If your why isn't
Not
big
big
enough,
enough. Right.
it's not going to happen.
Right.
All right? So here we go. Sometimes you may need to put up a picture, of Lil Johnny or Lil Susie, or put up a picture of the thing that you want
Where you going?
or the thing that you don't want. Okay? Put up some of them bills.
Okay.
To remind
Things
you.
you don't want.
Hello? Because why? These are your whys.
Yes.
If it's basking on a beach in Tahiti or Fiji or the Bahamas or North Carolina, wherever, put it up there and cut your picture out and put it in there. Glue it on there to show yourself. Here's
The
why
vision
I'm
board.
doing.
Yes, vision
You
board.
but I don't want to make it hard for people. So even if it's just stapling your bill up there, this car note that needs to be paid off. Okay, you still owe $14,000. You've been paying on it for 3 years, and you still owe $14,000. Okay, then we're not gonna get into this.
Okay.
I can go. Financial health can go there.
Yes.
So look, here we go. I'm getting the cue that I need to move on. Look, the key to good social health, the key to being able to help some folk in your neighborhood, in your family, is to start a successful home-based business. Why? Because this is where you show up in a certain way that makes you different. It shows people that you've got the guts, you've got the pride, that you took control of your situation. You didn't let the situation take control of you.
Right.
Dwayne talked about Jeremiah 29:11, an expected end. Guess what? There's an expected end when you branch out to do something for yourself. You're not getting in this thing to fail, okay?
Right.
Next slide. But here we go. In order to do that, I believe that you've got to get rid of the distractions. That is key for this month. That's what I want you to focus on in this month, is getting rid of as many distractions as you can.
How do you identify distractions when
If
you're
it's taking you away from the goal, it's a distraction. And again, whether we're talking about email, whether we're talking about phone call, whether you're talking about the relationship, the good relationship that you've been waiting 20 years to have. But if it takes you away from where you're trying to go, it's a distraction. And I'm not saying in the relationship, I'm just saying schedule time for the thing that you say is important to you. Go, last slide here, because this is real important. If you feel you need help, all right, you're not in this alone. You can go to williamcraig3.clickbook.net and schedule time with me. I'll give you free 30 minutes for a discovery session. And let's talk about where you feel you have some distractions that you think you can't get rid of, or whatever it is. Or maybe you just need help with a goal. Maybe it's a business you want to start. You don't know what you want to do. Let's talk about it. You're not alone. And with that, we're not alone here on the set. Mike, if you will, put up our guest slide, because we have a very special guest, an effervescent woman, a woman who is accomplished, a woman who knows her stuff. And her name is Kathy E. Smith, not to be confused with Kathy A, B, C, or D. Smith. This is Kathy E. Smith. She is the internet marketing expert. And if you would, please just go out with that first slide so we can just run down real quick who she is and why we have her here. In the first place, because we don't have any junk here at MentorMe Memorable Moments. Just real briefly here, Kathy in 2003 sold wedding gowns online. Okay, that was like the impetus. That was where she started. And then a few years later, she said, you know what? I want to make some real money. I want to do this for real, for real. And she decided to get serious about it. Her desire is to share what she has learned with other folks. And the focus is primarily on the small business entrepreneur, or somebody who's trying to get in this thing for real, for real. We are so happy to welcome and introduce to you Kathy E. Smith.
Welcome.
Wow, what an introduction.
You deserve more.
Thank you.
So look, I got real excited here, but I know I mentioned the fact that you were selling wedding gowns online, which I feel is phenomenal and fantastic within itself. But what made you even get started with that? How did you get into selling stuff online?
I just went to an info session, and it was a company based in Baltimore, and they just had an info session if you wanted to be an independent reseller. And so I went, and I thought it was interesting, and that's how I got started in that.
Okay.
And I think it's something about helping people in person, too, because even though people could look up the gowns online, it was that personal interaction.
Okay.
And then the accessories to go along with the wedding gown was like that. So I have a interesting story about that. I sold wedding gowns, and the company actually went out of business like one day on a Wednesday. And a bride had bought her gown, and her bridesmaids got their gown, but she did not get her gown. And fortunately, she had paid with a credit card. Okay. So I didn't have the money to reimburse her. So I told her to dispute the charge with her credit card.
Okay.
And they gave her money back.
Great.
Okay.
And the designer was in New York, and they agreed to give her the gown at the same price.
Wonderful.
Oh, the designer.
The designer
Wow.
agreed to, keep the same price that she got. I just wanted to operate with integrity, because I just thought about that.
Yes.
If that was me, Even though I didn't have the money, the only thing the credit card company asked was, "Can you show proof that this company went bankrupt?" And I could, so I just paid them back a little bit at a time because,
That's an important point because most people don't want to do business with home-based business owners because there is no integrity, or that's the perception.
Yeah, the perception is that.
Is
Yeah,
that there
they
is
don't
no
see how
integrity.
they.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So your business has morphed now into something else. We're no longer selling wedding gowns online.
No.
But what are you doing now, and how'd you get into that?
Okay, so when I was selling the wedding gowns and accessory, of course, if you have an online store, you want traffic.
Right.
Okay.
So
And now, so in case you don't know what traffic
Driving
is,
by your house.
exactly.
Drive by the building. Where the building? I can't find it.
Right. I don't want no traffic. No.
That dang red
The
light.
people actually visiting your website.
Absolutely.
It's called
The
traffic.
website,
Okay.
yes.
Absolutely.
All right, go for it.
so I wanted traffic, and so I started looking. Well, just because you build it does not mean they will come. So I went and researched, like, how do I get traffic? And so I looked up search engine optimization, and I paid this company like $300 for like several months, and I think that's a testament to how things don't happen overnight
Right.
because it takes up time to build traffic.
That's right.
And so
Sowing seed.
Yes, sowing a seed. I wrote an article on that yesterday that I'm going to put on LinkedIn. It's called Microwave Business Relationships, but it goes into if you are investing, if you're putting your money in the bank or you're investing or saving for retirement, that money doesn't grow overnight. So why do we think business relationships should be like that?
Ding, 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 ding. It's not growing overnight. Hashtag.
Where's my money?
And people often use this analogy. They say it's like going out on the first date and saying, "Will you marry me?"
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So
So you tried this company, you paid them, and over
$300,
time,
and I was like, $300? Maybe I should do something like that. So then that started the interest in, social media wasn't so big then, because that was like 93, 94.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
But, article marketing where you write an article and you get traffic to it and things like that, that really sparked my interest in it.
wonderful.
So then in 2011, I joined this women's entrepreneur group, and I was like, I really enjoyed that. I mean, if they made $300 off of that, that whole online fascinated me.
Right.
Okay.
So here we go. Let's fast forward. Have you been able to help anybody in what you do?
Yes.
Can you tell us about a success story?
Your company.
Actually, a few. I had the beginning of January, the end of January, I started my first online marketing boot camp for business owners.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
So it's been
met?
Well, that's how we started really
right,
communicating.
Okay, all right.
and
From the boot
Periscope.
camp.
Periscope.
So it's been going very well, but I'm glad it's like lessons learned. It's things that I want to do better. And right now I have a friend, and he is teaching. It was only supposed to be 4 weeks, and I gave 2 bonus weeks. And then a friend of mine taught on YouTube, and he actually goes to our church.
Okay.
And he got 90,000 views to one YouTube video,
Wow.
and he has close to 100,000 subscribers.
Sign me up.
Yeah. Bring it on through. Bring it on through.
So I really, he's such a sweet guy, and so I'm trying to encourage him to create his own online course, and I
Well, he
showed
can come
him.
do a
Well, I
course
like
for us.
that.
Yes.
We bring him as a guest speaker.
Yes, and he would love it. And I showed him this platform, like I had told him about a year ago, this platform where he could create his online video course and teach people how to maximize
Yes.
YouTube. So we're working on that. So he talked to the class, and so he was like, "Oh my gosh, Kathy!" And he was like, "You're such a godsend." And I was like, "I just want to help you because he just has such a giving spirit." So he will probably do part 2 this week. So it will be week 7.
Now his training part 1 is videotaped so that we can go to YouTube.
I will send it to you all.
Okay.
Because what I did is
See, that's what happens at the MentorMe 411 situation. We get the 411.
Hook up.
I taped it using GoToMeeting, which is it's a little bit out of reach for pricing, but they have a 30-day trial. So so I recorded
so you can
it.
Be strategic. And let me just jump in. I don't mean to cut you off, but that is so important for you to understand, because many of you will say, "Well, I don't have the money for this. I don't have the money for that." Many of these platforms will allow you a trial period. So what you just need to do is you need to be strategic and set all your ducks up in a row so that as you launch out there on these platforms, you can make your money within the allotted time before you have to pay for anything.
Right.
Yes.
Okay?
And then
Yes.
after that, you can afford to pay for it.
Yes.
Your business begins to pay
Yes.
for it.
Absolutely. So I said before the boot camp started that I'm really going to be on you, like, to do your homework. And so not everybody's done their homework, but they get as part of the boot camp, they get 2 hours with me. So that's either 2 hours straight or 4 30-minute whatever that may be. And so there's probably the youngest person in the group. She has been on her homework, and I could really see that, like, she's getting results. So I can really see that. So shout out to Sierra Brooks.
All right.
Go ahead, Miss Brooks.
Sierra B.
Sierra.
SierraBPR.com.
Okay.
And so
See what happens when you do your homework? You get a shout out internationally.
Yes.
We got a minute left.
Right.
So let's put Mike, if you will, put
Kathy's
Miss
information up.
Kathy's slide up there with all of her contact information, so folks around the world can get in touch with her.
That's right.
And find out how to be a part of the next boot camp that's going to be taking place.
yes.
And as well as all the other products and services that she offers.
So we do know her website is
It's right there on the screen.
Yep.
KathyESmith.com.
Ooh, you
And
own
can
your name.
call
That's
her
awesome.
At
Yes.
240-523-3707.
Okay, so this kind of wraps up our social health segment. We know we're going to see you again, Kathy,
yeah.
and we're going to bring you back to do a social media
I'm waiting for
session
my link.
too.
That'd be
Yes,
great.
exactly. But until then, we're coming
gosh.
back next week with the mental health. Dr. Michelle
Dr.
and
Michelle.
Felicia
Okay,
Jameson
yeah,
will be
Felicia
in the
Jameson.
house. We want you to be
Be
safe,
safe,
be smart, be healthy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
make you live in every era.